We're waiting for truth. Certain probes happening there, from sugar to, you know, what was happening at the National Cereals Produce Board to the land scam in Ruaraka. If indeed we all have bribe-taking MPs, then what are we doing with all these hearings?
Yes.
They're a sham.
I understand from where Speaker Muturi is coming from. He said that some members of those committees investigating the fellows implicated in these scandals, when they come into the grilling by the committee, some of them escort them out, some of them come with them, you know, they escort them in. So he was trying to say that some of these MPs who are appointed to investigate and grill these implicated personalities, they like massaging the ego of the implicated, saying that maybe they are taking bribes, to maybe not to ask the hard questions and such. And it's really worrying. It's a worrying situation. If it's happening, the people entrusted to, you know, to guide us and give us a picture of what's really happening, to unravel these mysteries we are having left, right, and center. It's if they are really taking bribes to shield these corrupt individuals, it's a worrying situation, a situation that really needs to be attended to comprehensively. Very true. Yes.
And of course that means basically even when it comes to the basic functions of the House, of course, when it comes to oversight, already they can be holes in, because if Muturi is talking about bribe-taking MPs, there's a big issue. Yeah, that means all that's coming to the House in terms of oversight, any hearing that needs to be done, will never be really truthful.
Yes, and when you hear it coming from the Speaker himself, you know, it's something that he's delved into. He knows there are some MPs taking bribes, and it's just sad to hear coming from the people that have the mandate to safeguard the you know, the economic sovereignty of this country are the one taking bribes.
Right.
To help and to help these guys continue looting the wealth of this country. It's a bad situation.
And that's, of course, the story that's leading in the People Daily. You can get much more detail on that on the 6th page of the PD. Still on the front page, according to NAT, ministry to blame for raging school fires. Now, no one knows really what's to blame and who's to blame when it comes to this particular issue. So many hypotheses have been thrown in the air. Of course, some MPs also even coming with a solution, apparently, are talking about the fact they need to legalize use of canes. And, of course, while doing that, probably it'll help these children be more disciplined. I don't know how true that is. You know, I don't know if caning is a solution to this particular issue, but of course you can see the blame game has already begun.
But Jeff, it's really intriguing, because when corporal punishment was there, the caning, I think, you know, even the students and the pupils had some sort of fear that if I do this and I get 6 in the bottom, it's really going to hurt. But that's not really, I don't think that's the measures that we want to implement in containing this situation that's really getting out of hand. Because it's a situation we've been having. For the last few years, every year we have to deal with these situations.
Very true.
Schools across the country burning, and we've even lost lives of students. And I think there's more than that. And maybe that's what the Kenya National Union of Teachers is trying to put across. That it's not just the exam fever, like it's been alleged.
Right.
Maybe it goes beyond that. So we need the authorities concerned to delve into this matter and come up with answers that is going to last us the whole while.
Okay, absolutely. Let's move on to page 2 of the People Daily, and an interesting story right there. Boyfriend's manhood claims shocks city court. And of course, this is all about a mother and daughter who have gone to court, apparently because the daughter, who's a university student involved in a 70,000 shilling theft case, accuses mother of persecuting her because she disapproves of her boyfriend. We didn't think this would end up, you know, this is a classic case of, you know, taking your dirty linen and not only taking it to public, you've aired it for everyone to see in the corridors of justice.
Yes, you've washed them, you've aired them, and now you are tossing them around for everyone, for all in the country to see.
Now, of course, this goes on to talk about the fact that what began as a case of theft at home ended up as an embarrassing washing of dirty linen in public saga when a university student accused her mother of persecuting her because of her boyfriend's, get this, private part.
And of course, the story goes ahead to tell that the mother was pestering her to leave the boyfriend because of his tiny manhood.
I'm trying to wonder, because I saw this case in court, and when you looked at Cynthia Cherop, the daughter in question, she was actually crying. Tears were flowing down her, freely, and I thought it was a bigger issue. I'm wondering how she actually told the judge this with a straight face.
Yes, it's you have to hold up and put a straight face when you are uttering such words. And I don't know where all that came from, since she was being accused of stealing 70,000 shillings from her mother.
Right.
And now the issue of boyfriend, it arose, and I don't see how the two are connected. The theft and now the size of the manhood of the boyfriend. It's intriguing.
And also what's really funny, because, they usually say love holds people together through thick and thin.
Yes.
Well, in this particular incident, she pleaded guilty and was remanded, while her boyfriend denied the charges and was released on a cash bail of 30,000 Kenya shillings. So much for love.
Yeah, it's more of a laughter than, a serious case maybe to listen to. I know it even elicited a lot of laughter in the courts.
Very true.
Yes.
Very true.
Yeah.
Still on page 2, before we move on to page 3, tension mounts in Homa Bay over by-election. Now, tension is mounting in Homa Bay County following allegations that ODM could be considering women's representative Gladys Wanga as the party's candidate in a likely by-election. And of course, this is always a very sticky issue when it comes to who's going to be fronted for a particular party.
Yes.
When it comes to how the nomination process will take place and who will be nominated, that's really where, with every party, the rubber meets the road into how the internal mechanisms work as to who they decide will be fronted.
Yes, and in this case, Jeff, we have the former Kasipul MP, Oyugi Magwanga, who ditched ODM, in last year's general elections. And he's one of the guys who are being fronted to run for this specific seat. And now ODM are running in helter-skelter, trying to find out and to figure out who is the most suitable candidate. And now the words have been thrown around, names have been thrown around, and Gladys Wanga, the women rep for that particular county, is one of them. Now that leaves a big question of exactly what will happen to Cyprian Awiti. If the court rules that we need a by-election in Homa Bay County, what's the fate of Cyprian Awiti as far as the political parties that fronted him to run for that seat are concerned?
Of course, a lot of lobbying has to go on also internally before you go and meet your electorate. But we'll wait and see how that one plays out in Homa Bay. Let's move on to the third page of the People Daily. It's all about Michael Mariah, making you realize that, yes, you might be going through a tough time, but, every cloud has indeed a silver lining. He's talking about tragedies that were blessings in disguise. Shiro, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Now, page C, just basically, when you think that something horrible has happened in your life and then it turns out just turning everything around, that's basically what Michael Mariah is doing this Friday. After a whole week of just a hot, steaming mess on page 3, this is actually quite nice. All right, let's start off with this incident that happened in 1980. There was a 62-year-old man who was left blind and deaf after a horrible accident. He regained his sight and hearing after being struck by lightning near his home. So his name was Edwin Robinson. And, he could see and hear for the first time since he became blind as a result of an accident 9 years before. So he was just wandering around in the field near his house, swinging around his cane, just, walking around. And then he took shelter under a tree when it began to rain. Not long after that, he was struck by lightning, was unconscious for 20 minutes, went back to his house, woke up with his sight and his hearing. It's actually quite heartwarming after 9 years of being blind and deaf. Now, there's another man here, a 55-year-old man from Pennsylvania, who basically told police he was driving when he started to choke on a piece of apple and he blacked out. The next thing he knew, his truck had smashed into a barrier, and then the apple was dislodged when he smacked his chest against a steering wheel, and the police actually say that the road accident saved his life. I don't think you've ever heard of anything like that. There's another person, a woman this time from Texas, who was plagued by a condition called pseudo-obstruction motility disorder, which is an incurable condition that makes eating very, very painful. So she was always on a liquid diet, needed painkillers due to the unbearable pain. Or she was like, okay, you know what, I can't do life anymore. So how this went down, she fell, this was in December 2011. She was playing outside, fell 30 feet head first from a tree, went into a coma, rushed to hospital. Doctors thought she'd be paralyzed. However, she was fine and her condition was cured. And finally, there was a paraplegic man who made headlines in 2009 after walking for the first time in 20 years after he was bitten by a highly venomous spider. I think more research needs to be done into venomous spiders, not by me, obviously. Someone else will do it, not me, Jeff.
Well, thanks for that. Sherry, you can get much more in your People Daily. And of course, every single day, Michael Murray will make sure that third page of your People Daily is just a ray of sunshine. Whatever is going on in your day, you can check that out. Very briefly, anything in the spice section that you should look at?
We have a story here in the spice page, on page 20 of the People Daily. Apart from entertaining and educating the masses, music is also gaining its popularity in the medical world as reputable therapy. It's a story by Manuel Ntoyai, and he's telling us how music is being used, you know, as a form of therapy.
Right.
Because music is therapeutic. Now there are people who've come up with programs and shows just to give music as a therapy, you know, for the mind. And he has the details all on page 20.
Okay, you can get that right there, of course, and grab your copy of your People Daily. It's free, by the way, so get yours and get, as we always say, fully informed on the big stories of the day. Let's move on now to the Standard. On the front page, awaiting cabinet changes. Now, amid rising claims of corruption in various state departments, muted tensions reportedly between Uhuru and Ruto camps, and in the aftermath of the Uhuru-Raila handshake, talk is rife that shuffling at the top is on the cards. There was a mini shuffle that happened recently, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
Of course, we saw a couple of changes within the cabinet secretaries, permanent principal secretaries as well. Also, some ambassadors got posts as well. So we're wondering if this is going to be a major overhaul of how the cabinet is set up right now. A couple of ministries that are already in the crosshairs. We have the Treasury Ministry, Agriculture, Interior as well. And of course, those ones have really been a matter of public discourse because so much that has gone on has involved those ministries when it comes to scandals of sugar, when it comes to scandals of land, the maize scandal, of course, as well. And people are wondering, okay, fine, if none of you can take the blame, then what are you doing there?
Yes, Jeff, I think the buck has to stop somewhere. And when you hear about looming cabinet shuffling and all that, it gives you a clear picture that something is wrong somewhere. There's custodians, you know, the CS and the PSs are the ones that play that custodian role of exactly what happens in their ministry. And if their ministers are dogged with all these scandals, you know, they have to provide answers. You know, when a CEO of a company is you know, his juniors or her juniors are complicated in such matters, he takes the blame. So the PSs and the CSs, you know, have to provide answers for this. And if all these scandals we're hearing in the land ministry, in the agriculture ministry, in the energy ministry, are anything to go by, I'm sure some heads will roll, and the cabinet shuffling is maybe will come very soon. Okay. Yes.
Indeed, let's wait and see if that actually will take place and if new blood will be brought into the system. Still on the front page of the Standard, the billions at stake in raging sugar war. Now, at the center of the high-octane sugar politics lies 6 billion shillings in form of 1.3 million bags that could end up being destroyed if found to be tainted with mercury.
That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of sugar. And you know, the intriguing thing in all this is just how this sugar ended up in this country. We have authorities that safeguard, you know, the importation of goods, and it's just mind-boggling how we could import all these thousands and millions of tons of sugar without our authorities having to get a word that indeed this is contaminated sugar.
Very true.
Yes.
Very true. And of course, it's an issue that we are all following very keenly to see how it's resolved.
Yes.
Because it seems like with all of these particular scandals that have come to the fore, there's no one of them that has actually been just resolved properly, and we've realized, okay, this is where we came short, and this is where we're fixing it. It's just been a blame game in every single one of them, everyone trying to defend themselves, and we're no closer to the truth than when we began.
Yes, and when one scandal comes, and we talk about it, and it's given a lot of media publicity and a lot of stands, you know, some arrest here and some arrest there, and after a few weeks, everything goes cool. Nobody is talking about the NYS. Nobody is talking about the sugar issue has now been has taken a back burner. Now we have the land ministry on focus. Yes, and you know, when we tend to like we are incubating, we are just suppressing matters. All these things we are doing will come to haunt us in the years coming by. Yes. Indeed,
and of course, we'll be following all of those stories because they need to be resolved right here. Also, speaking of corruption matters, yesterday, EACC seizes ex-governor over tender. Now, of course, former Nyandarua Governor Waithaka Mwangi, of course, was arraigned and, of course, spent the night in the cells with a former county executive committee members. This concerning a certain 50 million shilling tender that was supposed to be done. But, of course, according to the DPP's office and the EACC as well, they found that they didn't follow the procedure that should have been followed. And because of that, they'll have to spend the night in the cells and, of course, today, of course, go in for questioning. And it's very interesting because this, I think, is the second governor who's spending a night behind bars, ex-governor that is.
Yes.
And it almost seems like the DPP was serious when he said that he was going to go for both big and small fish. It wasn't just something he was saying during a vetting. He actually meant it.
Yes, and we pray that he maintains his integrity, that he's going not to be compromised in any way, because the, process and laws and regulations are laid down to be followed. So when you try to carve them and break them, processes, they are laid down constitutions in every sector that this is how it's supposed to be done. If it's procurement, if it's, you are giving out tenders, there are processes to be followed. Just follow the process. But it all goes back to what we had talked before, that people in this country are selfish.
Very true.
Everybody wants to have, what do I have?
True.
And when that tendency ends, that's when we'll start realizing positive gains.
Okay. That's some of the stories, of course, that we're following, of course, that also happening in the corridors of justice. Quickly, there's your Pulse magazine pullout in there. One interesting story that jumped out at me, Ringtone now wants to be a priest. Apparently, after he was spotted in something that looked like some clerical clothing, he was questioned about it, and he said that he's considering becoming a priest, and went on to say he's sort of practicing. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what it means.
Because the last time he was quoted, he was trying to get the hand of Zari in marriage.
Yes, he was pursuing Zari.
Yeah.
And I think he hit a dead end, and now he's focusing matters on, on other issues like becoming a priest. Maybe he found the going getting tough.
Okay, you can get all of that, of course, right there. Very quickly, before you go to the feedback that we have, quick headline on the Star. Ruto's new team of key confidants. These are all the deputy president's men, so to speak. We have Kipchumba Murkomen right there, Aaron Cheriot, Deputy Speaker Moses Cheboy, Langata MP Generali, Nixon Koreri is there, Nakuru Senator Susan Kiheka, and Caleb Kositani, Soy MP. You can get more details on that. And of course, it goes on to say that he talks to them daily and they speak his mind and meet to strategize his moves moving forward. Yes,
politics are in play. 2022 is nearing. It's 4 years away. But we are all seeing the political rearrangements, and the key men in the race are trying to plan their journey to 2022.
Okay,
yes.
It's 4 years away, and that would seem like it's a far way off for people to actually focus on development and then do politics later. We'll see how that turns out. But right now, let's go on to the other side for Shiro, of course, because she has some feedback on the big stories of the day. You can tweet us, of course, at K24TV, the hashtag K24Alfajiri.
All right, let's take a look at what you're saying about the top stories. Let's start off with this one. The mother and daughter who are in court over a boyfriend. So basically, Prince Ombui says, imagine when this girl will be a grown woman and she gets nobody interested with her for marriage. The same mom will start asking her, when are you going to be married? Come on, we need to think big. I don't know, that tweet has exhausted me on so many levels. I don't know where to begin. Justice Maniolo says the world is changing and issues are handled differently. Kwamboka, you need to understand that teenagers of today are not of yesterday. Albert says the best way to resolve that was through talking to her girl. Otherwise, she'll have to beat a couple of men till the day the girl gets married. Wow. All right, let's take a look at this next story here, which basically is the cabinet reshuffle. See what you have to say about that on social media. If the screen would just, there we go. So the cabinet reshuffle is one of the biggest stories. A lot of people trying to figure out who goes where and how. Mukami says there's a looming cabinet reshuffle. It will be messy, noisy, and loud. Can't wait. Someone is thriving in the promise of chaos. Lonely Planet says cabinet reshuffle must be the part of governance based on minister performance. Introduce e-governance and complaints issues monitoring. Couldn't agree more. Amanda says, seems President Uhuru Kenyatta is determined to ensure the success of his big 4 priority areas and the fight against corruptions. All right, Jeff, that's what people are saying about the top stories on social media. Back to you.
Of course, you can keep them coming in throughout the show. We'll be sampling them across the show right here at K24 TV. Keep those texts coming in. The Biggie.
Big J.
Thank you so much for coming through.
Anytime.
I can see football season's back.
It's back.
Has Arsenal finally gelled together? Have they done any preseason games that we can talk about?
Yes, there was a game they beat a team. I don't remember the team. 8-0.
But it's an insignificant team.
Yes, but yesterday they were playing Atletico Madrid in Singapore. The game ended in a draw, 1-1. Then they went on to penalty shootouts and unfortunately, Atletico won. Unfortunately.
Should we start saying kuna next season? Or it's too early for that?
No, the season is starting, I believe, 2 or so weeks. So let's just wait.
This is the next season you're talking about?
This is what we've been talking about.
We shall wait and see, Biggie. Thank you so much. Of course, we leave it at that for the newspaper review. We take a short break, but coming up, of course, Shamsi Music. We told you guys it's going to be absolutely late right here. We promised that, and we're going to give it to you right here on Alpha Jiri. We'll be right back.